So on this week's episode of Be More Super, the podcast, we've got another great guest from one of my favourite shows, Skymed. It's Sydney Kühne. Sydney, welcome to the show, my love.
Thank you very much, Brian. Excited to be here.
And so before we get into Skymed, I've got to say I do my research on all my guests, and I researched so hard about everything about you, Sydney. And I've got to say, you're a bit of a mystery. Because while researching, I found out that not only you're an actor, but you're also an artist and an activist. So in a nutshell, who is Sydney? Because I couldn't find much stuff about you.
That's very fair. I was off the grid for a little while. I lived on a farm for a while, kind of disconnected from civilization and society, so that kind of makes sense. I've been in the arts my entire life since I was a kid. I was in an art school. I then went into math and computer science in high school. I was in architecture in university for a little while. So generally, arts is a through line throughout my life. I explore lots of different mediums. So I write, do poetry. I've illustrated a book before. I make oil paintings, kind of whatever medium is calling to me. But acting is something I got into when I was young, and I just couldn't tear myself away from it. I kept coming back to it. It felt like home. So over the years, I've always gravitated towards it. And yeah, in terms of the activism, I try to be as involved as I can. I think that it's just important to be intentional about the way that you move through the world and aware of the impact that you're having on the world around you, especially when it comes to the environment. I do my best to be as environmentally conscious as I can and make those steps and educate myself on where I can make an impact and make it better.
And this is what's crazy at the moment, that there's still so many people out there that don't believe in climate change. But yet, if you look at everything that's going on at the moment, I mean, we have just had a heat wave in the UK, and heat and the UK doesn't go together. It's normally rain, it's normally miserable, but the heat was like 40 degrees, which is crazy. And you've got the earthquake, sadly, I think it's in Morocco, and you know, and I definitely agree that we need to be looking after. I mean, I've got little girls now, so it's even more important to do what I can in my lifetime to secure their lifetime and teach them the ways, and hopefully it will spiral down the generations. But I just wanted to quickly add on the book that you illustrated. You see, I am prepared, Sydney. I am prepared.
I can see that.
So this is a book that you illustrated.
Yes.
Can you just quickly give us a rundown of what the book is and what it's about?
Yeah, so it's a fantastic novel written by Chai Ryan Spain. It was published by the publishing house, an LGBTQ plus publishing house in Canada called Flamingo Rampage. It's about these two young non-binary children living in a civilization outside of society. They're basically creating their own civilization, post-apocalyptic. There's a lot of Afrofuturist themes in it. There's also a lot of self-discovery, self-identity. They lost their parents, and throughout the book, they're kind of discovering who they are, what they're meant to do in their lives, and really feeling their way, navigating their way through this very unfamiliar territory, this unfamiliar world. And I think what was so special about this book and what really drew me to it was that it was a positive story of our queer youth. And most of the time when we hear stories from our queer youth, it's about horror stories from coming out, which is, there's a huge gap in the market for the joyful, loving, accepting communities that are absolutely out there and what we need to see more of. So as soon as I read that in the book, and then also just these characters that I had not seen represented, and characters that I think I would have really appreciated reading about when I was a kid, I was drawn to it immediately. And the illustration style we kind of decided on. I like to do things manually. So this was done with white pen and watercolor on black paper. I did all the illustrations that way. We scanned them out and did some adaptations digitally afterwards. But oh yeah, you've got the interior too.
There you go. Look, very prepared.
And that's our lovely character, Ren. Ren and Augie are the two siblings who are the main characters of this book. And it was a really beautiful experience to work so closely with Chai, who also has been living with this story for a decade. They've really had this on their heart for a while, so they trusted me with their vision in creating the characters. And I think we were all really happy with the final result.
it's a great idea because it's a children's book as well. I mean, I'm of the generation. I mean, I'm 44, so I grew up surrounded by that sort of stigma for the gay community, and obviously I did performing arts at college, so literally I was the only straight man on the course. Which it took me a while to figure out that I was the only straight man, and that sort of helped me. But I think definitely it's a generational thing. I think with generations, it will get better, and it's a children's book. I mean, has there been any negativity around it? Because me personally, I would not have any qualms at all giving my kids this book, because I think you've got to be open and you've got to. It's not about, I mean, with my girls, I really do not mind what they want to do when they're older, their orientation, as long as they're happy. Do you know what I mean? Because that's the key. It's happiness. So whatever they want to be. So negativity, is this been raised at all by anyone in a less positive way?
That's a very good question. I think so far from the circles that it's been running in, it's been all joy. It's been all positivity. And I have a simple rule that I tend to go by. If it makes you happy and you're not hurting anyone, then go for it. But so far we haven't received any backlash on the book. I think that it's one of those things that it's mainly where the areas where we're trying to get it into. I mean, it's important. I think that this should be a book that's accessible to schools. I think it should be in our schools. It should be part of the reading list for our curriculum and the TDSB. Ideally, we'll see. But it's one of those things, when it is such a progressive book, it's difficult to enter those spaces because traditionally it hasn't been done. And when we have sort of these systemic means of excluding these voices from the narrative, it takes a lot to start to push them into the mainstream. So right now we're absolutely spread out amongst the demographic that is open to it and here for it and listening. But the most important hands that it has to get into, beyond the people who feel validated and seen and understood by it, which is extremely important, is also the people who don't necessarily understand where these characters are coming from or why they're feeling that way. Because this is the only way to do that, is to read someone else's perspective and go, I can relate to elements of their story. I can see that they're like me and we're not so different.
Excellent. No, I completely think it's a great idea. And I will put a link on this video for it as well, because I'm all for support. So obviously, I mean, you started your journey quite young, and we hear horror stories of kids that start in the industry quite young. And you've obviously turned out very, very well. So what inspired you when you were a kid, when you were young, to get into this industry? Was that always the plan, or was it by accident?
It was, well, I was very fortunate that my parents, they wanted to put me into everything, and they did. And I got to try out so many different extracurriculars as a kid. I really don't know how I managed that many things. It was, I was in every sport that I could do, and I was doing martial arts. I got my black belt in Taekwondo when I was like 16, and I did tons of different instruments as well, and dance and debate club and marching band and all sorts of stuff, which was a great foundation as a kid to be able to explore so many different things and see what you're capable of. And my parents, we watched Harry Potter, of course, which will always have a special place in my heart. And I remember after we had watched it, they asked me and my brother, do you guys want to go into acting? Like, you want to give it a shot? And I was like, okay, sounds like fun. I'm still waiting for my Hogwarts letter, very disappointed. They know my address. I don't know what's going on. It's been a really big backup. But that was the real reason that we initially got into it, was because we'd watched this film that was so impactful and exciting, and it looked like so much fun. And I kind of carried on through a bit of my childhood, but, my academic load got pretty heavy. So I was in and out of it over the years. I've been blessed to have an agent who's been very patient. And that was really the initial reason why I kind of got in. And since then, it's evolved into this excitement about, I love getting to play different characters. And I watched the masterclass with Natalie Portman, and she recently said, she was talking about active empathy. and how acting allows us to understand people so much better because we're stepping into someone's shoes and we're looking at them and saying, how do you view the world? What is your perspective on it, and understanding people. So that element of it has been really appealing to me alongside the storytelling element. I love telling stories. So it's always fun.
I mean, do you have a plan in place on what you want to achieve? Who you'd like to work with, win certain awards. I mean, have you got like an end goal for your career?
That is a loaded question. I certainly know the direction that I want to be going in. I'm excited to be playing a diverse range of roles. I love to do things that are outside of my comfort zone. I love to push myself. There are some actors and directors who I find phenomenal and who I would love to work with. I really want to work with Viola Davis. I think she's just legendary and phenomenal. And I recently also listened to her audiobook in her words and in her voice, and hearing that backstory of her life and her intentions and her reasons and her motivations, and also all that she's been through was so inspiring. So she's one that I'm very excited to work with one day. But yeah, in terms of acting, I know some sort of films that I would like to get into. I really love the action adventure sphere. So things like Hunger Games and Maze Runner and Divergent, that sort of post-apocalyptic rebellion of these youth creating their own civilization and challenging the norms that no longer serve society. That's very appealing to me. I also want to get into more writing and directing and producing in the future. I haven't gotten the chance yet, but just being in the industry for so long, and I've done 6 months art department on a Apple TV show as well, which was a blessing to be able to see how the departments coordinate and work together. It's giving me more of a holistic view of the industry so that I'm not just walking around with my actor blinders on. So I'm excited to expand into those other areas as well.
I mean, you want to get your agent to keep a lookout, because I don't know if you watched this show Warrior Nun that was on.
It's on the list. It's on the watch list.
Well, the trilogy, the movie trilogy. So I'm a massive Warrior Nun fan. I think it's an absolute amazing show. I've interviewed the whole cast, including Alba, that's just got married to Chris Evans. Congratulations to her. And I think it's going to be an amazing movie trilogy. So just there, action, adventure, and great story. So who knows? We might get you in a Warrior Nun suit in the near future. But I mean, you've already answered my. Did anyone in particular inspire you on your journey? But the industry can be cruel and it can be beautiful at the same time. So how do you keep motivated, especially when I can imagine some of the challenges come thick and fast?
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right. It's a very volatile industry. Just the nature of the thing. That's the nature of the beast. We have the sort of high seasons and low seasons, and we kind of call it just hurry, wait. And that's basically it runs in cycles. And if you're somebody, you need to kind of be somebody who can adjust and adapt to those seasons of change. I think that's a really important thing. And at first it's very difficult to adjust to, because I think what we all grew up on was get the stable job, get the steady job, the 9 to 5, the one that allows you to retire at a certain age, and there's consistency in it and there's reliability to a certain extent. This industry does not have any of that. It's very much, you're not sure when the next job is going to be. When it does come, you're waiting around sometimes, and then suddenly you're working days in a row, 16-hour days, and you're exhausted. But I think that it's really important to have sort of a mindfulness and well-being practice in that. I want to be doing this for the rest of my life. To be honest, I love it so much that it is work, but it's one of those employs that I want to be doing forever. I can't even envision myself retiring. Maybe, talk to me 10 years down the line and we'll see how I'm doing. But right now, I can't see myself retiring. It's something that I want to have the sustainability and longevity to do. And a big part of that is even in the auditioning process, stopping seeing every audition as, God, I hope that I get this, was the big shift. Because there's so much desperation going into that. And it's easy to fall into that trap, but it takes you out of the moment and it puts up these walls around you and it makes every experience very fearful, rather than allowing it to be what it is, which is play, which is art. So I kind of go into every audition and every opportunity to act as this is the event. I'm getting to play this character for this moment, and that is a beautiful thing. Let me enjoy this, and what comes out of it will come out of it. And trusting that, you know, what is meant for me shall not pass me. That's kind of my another little motto that I have.
I mean, you've starred in so many things. Looking at your IMDb, and still at such a young age. I mean, what's been the biggest lesson that you've learnt along your journey so far?
Oh, the biggest lesson. You know, that's difficult. There's been a lot that I've learned for sure. I think a big thing is trusting myself, which I didn't do for a very long time, but really learning to trust myself and to be open and present to the moment and not to get too in my head about it. You know, I'm always learning. Every single project I do, I learn something new about myself. I learn something new about the industry, about the work that we're doing, and engaging with my peers and my coworkers. That has been a real blessing, because there's so many people who have so much to offer, but it's easy for us to kind of walk onto set and go to the mark and do our thing and walk off, rather than being engaged in what it is, which is a team. And that impacts every experience that you go through. So for a very long time, I was just terrified, you know, and I allowed the insecurity to kind of run my life. But I think the biggest thing that I learned was to be open and trusting, and know that there is more kindness out there than you may anticipate. And there are good people out there who are, you know, we're in the same boat. So trust them and lean on them, and be a support for other people as well, right? When you show up to set, I try to do the very most that I can to make sure that we're having a good day, because nobody needs somebody to come on and you know, even if you've got stuff going on outside of it, don't bring that to the workplace. You know, make sure that you're a part of the team, and you're working with folks and uplifting the set environment. That, I think, has been probably the biggest lesson and the biggest value.
And what goes around comes around as well. So if you're upbeat and you're being nice and everything like that, and trying to uplift people, you know, hopefully it goes round in your way as well. So let's talk about Skymed. So would you like to take home a piece of film history or TV history into your own home? Find your own piece of magic with Prop Store, the world's leading auctioneers of film props, costumes, and more. So check out propstore.com or follow the link in the description of this video. And while you're doing that, why don't you use our special code? Our special code will give you 10% off anything in the Buy Now section. And the code is easy to remember. It's Brian10. That's BRYAN 10, and it's just above the finger, just here. Use that at the checkout to get your 10% off. That's propstore.com. Because I literally cannot wait for this to start. October the 1st, season 2. We're getting the band back together with a few more members, which is awesome. I mean, if you can tell the lovely viewers and listeners a bit about the character that you're going to be playing in season 2.
Absolutely. So Steph, she's an Ontario paramedic. She's an advanced care paramedic, so she did her full training for 7 years. She's just moved to Thompson now. She's definitely a bit fiery. She's bold. She loves what she does. She really loves her job, and she's not afraid of danger and not afraid of jumping in with 2 feet. She's got her own history, her dark sort of past that she's contending with throughout the season. And we get to know deeper into the season what she's really going through. But she's also quite guarded, and she doesn't really necessarily open herself up too quickly to people. But when she's working with this team and she gets to know them better and they're opening up to her, she really starts to trust them. And we get to see this beautiful moment where they become a family, and she learns that she doesn't actually have to do it on her own. She doesn't always have to be a lone wolf. And I'm really excited for you guys to see her.
Do you know what? The thing I love about this show, there's no small characters. The writing on this show is just phenomenal. It really, really is. So I'm really looking forward to seeing you on screen. I mean, what attracted you to the role at the beginning?
I think, well, the character herself, she reminds me a lot of myself in a lot of ways. This love for her job and this ambition, but also kind of this lone wolf attitude. She's very strong, she's had to be strong, and she's afraid of sort of opening herself up in that way to people. That was something that was really appealing to me, and I loved her courage and her bravery, and that's something that she's taught me through this role, because I think I'm brave. But there are things in life as well that I'm like, I need to, what would Steph do? What would Steph do in this scenario? On top of that, she's a paramedic, and I have just the utmost respect for our first responders. So being able to play that was such a privilege. And we had the fantastic Steve, who was our on-set paramedic, who I racked his brain for hours and hours and hours when I first got on the show, just to understand what it's like, what the life of a paramedic is, not just the business when they're at work, but outside of that, what is family life like? How does this impact your psyche? Because it's such an intense job emotionally, physically. There are many paramedics who can't stay in the career for a few decades because of injuries, backs. A lot of people throw out their backs because it's so much lifting and carrying, and it's such an intense job, and these are our real life heroes. When we talk about superheroes, these are our superheroes. And so the fact that this show is bringing visibility to that, and also to our Canadian superheroes, I think that this show has such a beautiful and distinctly Canadian voice to it that we can really relate. When we watch it, we can go, that feels like home. While at the same time, it's also got something that everyone can understand universally. It's a beautiful show, and the character is really exciting.
I mean, you talk about obviously Steve being on set. I mean, I think he was on set for season 1 as well. I mean, the show, of course, is heavily medically based. And speaking to a few of the cast for last season, Praneet and Rebecca and obviously Morgan the other week, they went through a lot of training before shooting the show. So did you have to go through a lot of training yourself, and how did you take to that? Did that come naturally to you?
I did. I got to do a little bit of training at the front end. I'm definitely somebody, I really like to do research just so that I can understand a role better. And I did a fair bit on my own, just there's a lot of resources out there, even on YouTube. There's a ton of resources on our first responders, through interviews and through, shows that are based around them. I found most valuable was seeing our real life first responders and how they contended with the obstacles that they came up against. And we did have some wonderful training at the front end of the show. We went up to, this was all shot in North Bay. And we went up and they had a bunch of equipment out, and I was just in wonderland. I was so excited to get into it. And they walked us through how to spike an IV and how to carry a litter correctly. And what your form is going to be, which I found that was really invaluable going through the show, because there was so much business. A lot of the scenes, at first it was intimidating for sure, because a lot of the scenes, it was important to be medically accurate. And I'm aware as well that we're going to have first responders watching our show, and I don't want to do it an injustice by not making it accurate. So we were lucky to have our on-site paramedic and our medics on set to help us, guide us through that. But yeah, the training was really, really helpful. And I'm such a note taker. I have pages and pages of notes on what we were doing. So that was really cool to be able to witness firsthand.
I mean, you joined the cast in season 2. I mean, how daunting was that to turn up with such a well-established cast already? Because obviously they filmed during the pandemic times. So now obviously times have changed. I mean, what was that like getting into that group? Did they make you feel welcome, and how daunting was it?
Oh no, terrible. They were so horrible. No, you know what? There was no fear at all, to be honest, going in, which sometimes it is that way when you're coming into a show, a season end. But everybody, I mean, and you've spoken to them, so these are just good folks through and through to their hearts. Like, it's such a welcoming group of people, and not just our cast, our phenomenal crew. Everybody was so welcoming and loving and kind and supportive. And yeah, playing a role who was, very new, completely new to the show, had never seen her before, there was a bit of that moment of, am I going to be able to do this? Am I going to, hit it out of the park. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. And especially because it's a new, I've never played a medical professional before. I wanted to make sure that I was doing that right. So there was a little bit of fear around that, but everybody was really, really supportive and just checking in on you and making sure that you feel like a part of the family. And that atmosphere, I think it comes through in the show because we are all in the crew house together and we are going through these struggles together. And that comes very much from the fact that that's what our cast has with each other in real life.
I mean, did you watch the show season 1 before going to shoot?
Absolutely.
So the question is, after watching season 1, and then obviously meeting up and getting to know each other, which cast member actually really took you by surprise compared to what you saw on screen to how they were off screen?
You know what? And I can say this so easily because I've told him this many times. Thomas, he really took me by surprise because he's such like a steely blue, like almost, I mean, he's not cold, but he's just guarded. His character is guarded. Novak's guarded. So when I met him in real life and he's a freaking teddy bear, I was like, oh, I wouldn't have expected that. But he's just a wonderful, wonderful soul. So that one really surprised me. And I told him that too. I was like, I was not expecting this. But yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you had some amazing moments off camera and on camera. And I've got to ask, I was going to ask you if you had any special or funny moments that you can share about being on set. And I noticed there was a few comments about the ER scene.
ER scene.
Yes.
Which one?
Well, it doesn't say. It just says I've got some photos from the ER scene, or is there any scenes that you can share or any experiences? I didn't know if obviously we don't want to ruin it for anyone, and I know that you'll get told off extremely badly if you start to give spoilers away. But I just saw the comment that says on your Instagram from someone. I think it's Victoria that said something about the ER scene. I didn't know if anything like shocking.
I'm not sure about the ER scene. I'm not sure which one that is that she's indicating.
Oh,
but there were really funny moments and funny moments offset as well. I think favorite moments though were just the silliness of our cast and us being able to like hang out outside of it. We were up in North Bay and we were all in the same hotel. So that meant that basically whenever somebody was free, we would just go out and do whatever. And we went out to wrestling matches and we went out to the beach and all sorts of fun little adventures. The wrestling match was probably one of my favorites, which was the entirety, it seemed like, of North Bay was at this wrestling match. And they put up these giant, like they had the ring in the center and they put up these giant cages alongside and they started climbing up the inside and the whole cage was tilting over. And we were freaking out, and all of the volunteers who were setting up the event were like running over to hold the cage down before these guys toppled, which was crazy and exciting and beautiful. But in terms of our on-set kind of fun moments, I think one of my favorite moments, which was a real team building moment, was early on. And I think that there's a clip of this in our little, I guess you could call it the kind of behind the scenes clip that's out on Instagram right now. At the very end, you see us in our undergarments outside. And we were playing a sports match, and that was part of our shooting. We were playing a volleyball game outside in the freezing cold winter, and so we were actually all in our literal like sports bras and underwears playing in the winter, which was. I enjoyed it, to be honest. I know that some people were like, no, you know what? Everybody was a good sport about it for sure. I really enjoyed it because, again, it's something that's so outside of what we would think of doing for ourselves. And I was like diving into the snow as well. We had John Stead coordinating that and Ruth as well helping us out. So that was probably one of the funniest moments that we had, just seeing all of us standing around like, okay, ready? Yes! But it was a good time. It was a really good time.
I mean, what can we expect from Steph then in season 2? I mean, will there be romance? Will there be, confrontations? Because this show, literally, each episode, you don't know what's going to happen, and it's crazy. I mean, in a nutshell, what can we expect from her?
All of it. Absolutely all of it. There's definitely going to be, there is a very cute romance that I think y'all will enjoy. I won't give much away, but it's a very sweet moment. It's supportive. There are also confrontations for sure. But that's what makes it wonderful and dramatic. And yeah, Steph really goes through kind of the whole shebang, the whole roller coaster in this season of, she's got moments of terror and fear, and she's got moments of pride and joy. And um, it's an exciting season all around in terms of her self-discovery and in terms of her getting along with this group. She's making unexpected friendships, everything, everything.
I mean, the time is getting away from us, and I wanted to quickly ask because I saw on your IMDb a new show that you're going to be in as well, called Robin Hood. And
That's
the
right.
crazy thing is, where I live right now is actually in the middle of Sherwood Forest. So I am from Nottingham.
That's
So
incredible.
so I grew up literally breathing Robin Hood and his merry men. So
Oh
this is
my
from
gosh.
Director X. If you could tell us a bit about this show, because I love the concept.
Absolutely. Well, you're going to love this. You're going to love this. As you said, it is from our mastermind, Director X, our fearless leader. It is a modernized version of Robin Hood. As you can see, Robin, our lead, is a Black woman. Our cast is primarily Black, and it's very timely. It touches on topics of police brutality. It touches on topics of gentrification. So it's socially conscious, and at the same time, it contends with a lot of the struggles that are going on right now, and is respectful, I find, to the initial folklore. There's so much of that woven in, especially for the Robin Hood nerds. Like the through line, you'll see it. You'll definitely see a lot of those moments in Easter eggs throughout the film, throughout the series. And it's also high action. It's exciting. It's moving. It moves quick. There's humor to it. There's drama to it. There's romance to it. I play Marion in this show, and some of that comes in. So it's going to be a fantastic show. I'm excited for everyone to see it.
I
Coming out
can't wait
September.
either because it's called New Nottingham, which I just think is great. And as you just said, the 27th of September on
Yeah,
global TV, it
that's right.
it premieres, and I can't wait. Are you doing anything special for when Skymed and Robin Hood comes out? I mean, do you get all the snacks in? Do you invite your friends round? Do you have a little bit of a party?
Oh yeah, I think this one I think I'm gonna spend with my grandparents, which I'm really
Oh,
excited about. I stay with them here in Canada, and they they see me, going off for months on end shooting these things, but they don't get to see the finished product. And I love them so much. They've been so supportive of my career, and I am just very blessed and grateful to have them. But they haven't gotten to really see what it is that I'm making, so I'm excited for these to come out and be able to share that moment with them. And sometimes I'll hear my grandma on her phone calling up her friends and being like, "Are you making sure to watch this show, Robin? It's coming out." And I'm like, "Thank you, grandma." So I think that the premiere nights may be spent with my grandparents watching on the couch, and definitely snacks will be had.
that is
Probably
awesome. Right, before we end this lovely conversation, I've got some rapid fire questions. Maybe we
Oh,
can add these to your trivia on your IMDb. So here we go. So, Sydney, your favorite food?
oh, God, mangoes.
Mangoes. Okay, you've got to choose one. Cozy in front of an open fire or hot on the beach?
Hot on the beach.
What gets you angry?
Oh, what gets me angry? I'm a very calm person.
You think of too many
um,
things.
oh, littering.
Okay, excellent. And the last time you laughed so hard you couldn't breathe?
Oh my gosh. Something that my grandma had said, something that my grandma had said the other day. I don't know if I can reveal it, but it was just a very coy moment. It was a coy moment, and it had me under the table.
Okay. And you're stranded on an island and you can only have three items with you. What items would they be?
Ooh, I'm a survivalist, so a switchblade, a water bottle, and I think a tent. No, I would build a shelter. Maybe a phone might help. Call for help.
phone. Yeah, but it'd be dead after a while. And then the last one, if you could change one thing in the world, one thing, what would you change?
Empathy. A little more empathy.
Awesome. Sydney, you've been a great guest. It's been a great honor to have you on, and I cannot wait for season 2 to come on the 1st of October for Skymed and Robin Hood on the 27th of September on Global TV. But Sydney, look after yourself, keep safe, and stay super.
Thank you so much. You as well, Brian. Take care.